Chairman Gallagher, there should be a vote on TikTok today. Am I right about that? And if so, what will the bill do if it passes?
You are correct. The vote will be in our morning session this AM. And if it passes, which I very much hope it will, the bill will force a divestment. The fundamental problem with TikTok is that it's owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is a Chinese company that is beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. And given TikTok's salience as a source of news for Americans under the age of 30, having a CCP-controlled company dominate the algorithm that determines what information America's youth gets is the fundamental national security concern. The risk of propaganda on the part of a foreign adversary is far too great. So this bill puts in place a framework, a regulatory framework to prevent foreign adversary control of social media in America. Foreign adversary as defined narrowly as four countries: China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. And for those who have been unpersuaded that there is a threat, all you need to do is look at what TikTok did last week when the bill passed unanimously out of the Energy and Commerce Committee. They forced a pop-up notification on all their users, asked them to enter their zip code, and then had it call their members of Congress. The pop-up had completely inaccurate information. You had kids calling members of Congress threatening suicide if Congress took action on this issue. So we got a preview of how the app could be weaponized to influence our legislative process, influence our elections. Hugh, imagine if we were debating a bill to authorize the use of military force to defend Taiwan, or to remove China's permanent normal trade relations status, and TikTok weaponized the platform accordingly. That's just a risk we can't afford to take.
Now, I was deeply disappointed yesterday when I saw Chris Coons, who I have great respect for. He's a Democrat representative of Delaware in the Senate. He is very, very good on China. He is very, very good on religious liberty. He's a good man and he's smart. And he was on camera saying we don't have to worry about TikTok and rush to a vote on this. I think every day that goes by, you lose another child to TikTok's malign influences and their messaging. What would you say to Senator Coons and others who don't think there's urgency here?
Well, I too know Senator Coons to be a very good man. He's an incredibly God-fearing man whose faith is very strong, and he's shared some very powerful stories about that. I just would completely disagree. And it's not just me talking about that. It's every single Biden administration national security official. Yesterday, we had our annual worldwide threats hearing where you have the director of national intelligence, the CIA director, the NSA director, the FBI director, et cetera. All of them have warned about the national security threat posed by ByteDance's ownership of TikTok. And in the unclassified Director of National Intelligence assessment that was made public yesterday, they said that TikTok is already being used to meddle in American elections. And I know that election integrity is a core concern of Senator Coons. And the final thing I would say is I don't know the source of his concerns, but if it's some sort of, if he's concerned about just the general user experience on TikTok and wanting that to continue, a world in which ByteDance divests from TikTok is a world in which Americans can continue to use the platform. Now, we as parents would then have a separate debate about whether that's healthy, whether there should be restrictions on social media in general. But the principle of denying foreign adversary control of the application, I think, is uncontestable. It does not endanger any free speech or First Amendment issues. If that were the case, previous efforts to change ownership of companies in the antitrust paradigm would have been significant First Amendment issues. That doesn't obtain in this case. There have been some suggesting that there's a bill of attainder concern here. Hugh, I hesitate to talk about constitutional law with such a distinguished constitutional lawyer such as yourself. But a bill of attainder, as you know, refers to a sort of a backward-looking punishment against an individual or entity, whereas this is a prospective regulatory framework for entities that are controlled by a foreign adversary. So I don't think there should be any concern about a bill of attainder being triggered in this case.
Oh, man, that is such a Hail Mary pass. Now, you have worked across the aisle. This is a bipartisan bill that you have put together with your ranking member and your members on your committee. It went through the Energy and Commerce Committee led by Kathy McMorris Rogers, 50-0. I'm wondering if you're going to call Angus King, senator from Maine, friend of mine, friend of yours, Democrat, independent who caucuses with the Democrat, very smart guy. You worked on the cyber solarium with him. Does he agree with you that we've got to get TikTok out of the hands of ByteDance?
Well, he was on a previous iteration of this bill in the Senate. So, yes, I believe he agrees with me. And I think he was the one who asked the questions of the DNI and the CIA director related to TikTok in the Senate earlier this week. His line of questioning was excellent. Angus and I, though we no longer chair the commission together, remain in close contact and we talk on a near weekly basis. So, my hope is that he will emerge as a champion for the bill in the Senate. And I know that Angus more broadly sees clear eyed the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party. He's been a forceful voice for that in the cyber context, in the military context. And so I would expect that he will be a key voice in the Senate going forward. And as I've said multiple times on your show, Angus King is a great American.
There is real urgency here, and I hope Chuck Schumer is aware of it. The majority leader of the Democrat of New York, a big supporter of Israel. The TikTok platform was used to poison young minds about Hamas when the war began, when the slaughter occurred. And they will use TikTok when Rafah is invaded soon. There is urgency, Congressman Gallagher. Do you think the Democrats get it? Because I think Joe Biden said he will sign this bill.
He did, and I say we've worked with the DOJ, we've worked with the NSC. We recognized that we needed a bipartisan coalition, and we needed something that would survive a legal challenge. We invited technical assistance from the White House and incorporated some of that into our bill. There is urgency, and I think the entire reason this effort has renewed life when previous efforts have stalled is because of October 7th and because of the anti-Semitism that we've seen on the platform and the unexplained variances when you compare certain posts on Instagram, for example, to similar posts on TikTok. And there's wild variances when you start to get into topics that are related to Israel, and even bigger disparities when you get into topics that would be problematic for the Chinese Communist Party, topics related to the Xinjiang genocide. COVID origins is nearly non-existent on TikTok, where it exists on other platforms. So there's something going on here, and I think it's caught the attention of a lot of people, and I think Chuck Schumer will have an opportunity to do something about it. And the closer we inch to an election, the greater the risk comes from doing nothing. And so, again, I hope we get a big House vote today such that the Senate can't ignore what we're doing. There's been a lot of senators who've reached out to me. Tom Cotton has been one of the clearest voices on this issue, as much as it pains me to give him a compliment. But he's been out there sounding the alarm for a long time. So I'm
Senator Cotton said yesterday on this show. Senator Cotton said yesterday on this show that it could be done in 5 Senate working days if they move fast. I'd like to conclude this way, Senator. A lot of my listeners don't have TikTok on their phones. Their parents, they're driving their kids to school as we speak. The kids are in the back seat complaining bitterly about listening to me inveigh against and complain about TikTok. Would you speak to those parents why they don't want their children on TikTok, what it does and how it distorts, not just propaganda, but just generally speaking, what it feeds into young brains?
Well, I've called it digital fentanyl for a reason. It is both highly addictive and destructive and correlated with skyrocketing rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide. And it can also ultimately be traced, like actual fentanyl and its precursors, back to China. So do you want America's foremost adversary, one that we know is intent on waging ideological warfare against the West and destroying the capitalist system led by America? Do you want that regime to occupy such a dominant place in the minds of America's youth? It makes no sense. It would be as if we allowed the KGB and Pravda to buy every major American news source at the height of the Cold War, and that probably understates the threat that we're facing.
I thought you might also add it collects data on users. And so every single user of TikTok is compiling a file of their likes and dislikes, what they view, what they don't view, what they linger over. And they're not going through it page by page, but it's all there, right, Congressman?
That is the second threat. The data collection is a huge threat. There's been instances of TikTok using the platform to spy on journalists, and that may not seem like something an 18-year-old be worried about, but imagine that 18-year-old then goes out and wants to join the intelligence community or the military, and the potential for blackmail is a severe risk. So I do like the idea, however, of these kids being forced to listen to your radio show every morning. Perhaps we should, have like a Hugh Talk or something, alternative app that we can push to America's youth. It'd be very healthy.
Well, we should now conclude this with our last minute. The Browns are having an excellent free agent season, signing Zadarius Smith, a new running back. They've got themselves Jameis Winston to be their backup. I don't think anyone's going to the Packers, Mike. I think they've just basically given up on Green Bay. Are you guys out of the league?
We're still in the league. We did let Aaron Jones go, which was very sad. Aaron Jones is an incredible player, and I got to meet his dad before his dad passed away. His dad was a career Army guy. I met him at a tailgate. He came to a veterans tailgate we had, and he was awesome, just like super down-to-earth guy. And so Aaron Jones will always be loved, even though he's going to the Minnesota Vikings. He's going to go on the Favre journey. Join the Vikings. Everyone will be mad, and he'll come back and be welcomed as a hero at some point.
But I also noted that yesterday, as I was reading my Green Bay Packers meltdown, I mean, it was just terrible news after a bit of terrible news that Aaron Rodgers has been asked by Bobby Kennedy to be his running mate. And I thought, that's just perfect. That's absolutely, put a Packer on the ticket, and then we'll know for sure that Bobby Kennedy's nuts.
He's, in point of fact, a Jet, not a Packer. But yeah, it's been an interesting 24 hours dealing with these news stories and the misinformation about my TikTok bill. So, Hugh, I'm not going to lie. I need a win today, all right? The Gallagher family needs a big win today to reverse the momentum.
I think you're going to get one, Representative Mike Gallagher. Follow him online at Rep Gallagher, and there is going to be a big win, and I hope the Senate goes right for it and gets rid of TikTok before it gets even more injury on a daily basis to America's youth. Do not wait. Call your senator and tell him you got a bill coming your way, and we'd like it passed next week to get TikTok not shut down. It's just going to be sold to an American entity and get it out of the hands of the Chinese Communist Party stat.